Hey, how you doing? Justin back with you. Now we're going to check out the C major scale in open position. Now there are a whole bunch of reasons that we're learning the C major scale. It's a great fun thing to improvise with. So learning about how chords and scales fit together, which we're going to talk a little bit about later, means that you can improvise, make up your own melodies, make up your own solos with the major scale. It's a lot of fun. It's also great as an exercise to work on practicing picking individual strings and for the dexterity of your fingers to move them around to sit on individual frets and be able to play individual lines, which you need if you want to play riffs, ornaments, when you add things to chords later on as well. There's loads of reasons why practicing scales is a good thing. It's kind of got a bit of a bad rap, I think, because some people imagine practicing scales for hours and hours at a time. I don't think you should, let practicing scales become an all-consuming thing, but it should be part of your practice routine because of its many benefits for both hands and the synchronization between the hands and loads of other stuff. So let's get in and check out how to play C major scale in the open position. So we're going to start C major scale on the note C. This is a really important part of practicing scales, is starting and ending on the root note of the scale, the note name of the scale. And this is the note C here on the 3rd fret of the 5th string. Now the fret number and the finger number happen to be the same. So all notes in the 1st fret will be the 1st finger, all notes in the 2nd fret will be played with the 2nd finger, all notes in the 3rd fret will be played with the 3rd finger. We're not using little finger for this exercise. So starting 3rd finger, 3rd fret, 5th string. Use down picks throughout for this exercise. Then we're going to play open 4th string. Okay, 4th string, no fingers on it, that's open. 2nd finger, 2nd fret. 3rd finger, 3rd fret. Then we're going to play the open G string, the open 3rd string. 2nd finger, 2nd fret. Then open 2nd string, the B string. 1st finger, 1st fret. 3rd finger, 3rd fret, open thinnest string, 1st finger, 1st fret, 3rd finger, 3rd fret, immediately back down, so we're not going to play that note twice, we go back to the 1st finger, 1st fret, open thinner string, 3rd finger, 3rd fret on the 2nd string, then the 1st finger, then open, 2nd fret on the 3rd string with the 2nd finger, then open, then 3rd finger, 3rd fret, 4th string, 2nd finger, open, now 3rd finger, 3rd fret, 5th string, 2nd fret, then open A string, that's the 5th string, 3rd finger, 3rd fret of the thicker string. Now 1st finger, 1st fret of the thicker string. Many of you are going to find that a bit of a reach. Then the open string, so we've gone as low as we can now. Back to the 1st finger, 1st fret, 3rd finger, 3rd fret, open A string, 2nd finger, 2nd fret, and then coming back to 3rd finger on the 3rd fret. Let me play that for you one time now, just straight up and down a little faster so you can get the idea of what you're aiming for. A couple of really important things about playing scales that I want to explain to you now. The first one is this idea that practice makes permanent, not perfect. Okay, I'm sure you've all heard practice makes perfect. It doesn't. Practice makes permanent, so practice perfectly. It's really, really important. When it comes to practicing scales, and especially the first few times that you learn them, you want to do them really, really slowly and try and get them right. Because if you build the code correctly in your brain, then you just say to your brain, hey, do that thing I was just doing, but do it faster. And if it's got clear messaging and it knows exactly what fingers are going to go where and how far they have to move, that kind of thing, it's relatively easy to speed things up and keep them accurate. Whereas if your brain's, the coding in your brain is going, put your second finger down, no, lift it up, it's on the wrong string, lift it up, move it over there. If the coding is all jumbled, it's a lot harder to speed it up. You end up with a bit of a mess, and especially if you try and memorize it and you get it wrong, it's really hard to get it right again. It's going to take a lot of effort to be able to get it back into the right place. So the first few times that you practice the scale, you want to do it super slow. Like, look at the page, open, fourth string, okay. There's a second finger, second fret, then third finger, third fret, still on the same string. You know, I talk to myself rather probably more than I should, but you know, saying it out loud and making sure that you've got exactly the right fingers in the right place. Really, really helpful. Another tip that you might find useful is only going up to start off with. So just practicing, speed it up, but you would go slowly, just up, then stop. A lot slower than that, but just going up the scale a few times first. Maybe for the first 3 or 4 days, you're just going to go all of the way up. This is partly to do with the memorization process. Now, for me, when I'm practicing the scales, doing the left-handed stuff, I've got a head start here because I know exactly what the scale looks like. I know where the finger should go. So I'm getting the physical benefits there of trying to pick the right notes and getting the fingers, the dexterity of the fingers working, but the actual memorization of the scale is already done. For many of you, that will be part of the battle, is learning to memorize this new shape, making a map of the scale in your mind, because you definitely need to memorize it. It's not something that wants to be staying on the page. You need to practice it over and over again and build a map of what it looks like in your mind. Great practice can be when you're away from the instrument, being able to close your eyes and picture what the scale shape looks like. See where the dots are. The fact that the pattern on the 5th and 4th strings is the same, that on the G string, on the 3rd string, there's only 2 notes and it involves your second finger, which isn't used in other parts, not on its own. The thinnest 2 strings is using the 1st and the 3rd fingers and not the 2nd finger. The same on the thickest string. You know, so kind of making this little map and seeing where those dots lie as a shape can be really, really helpful. When it comes time to practice the whole thing, you definitely want to be starting on this lowest root note all the way up as far as you can go in that position, in that area of the neck, then down as low as you can go, and then back up to the root note. The reason that this is important is because it's training your ears to hear the sound of the major scale. The major scale is this do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. If it doesn't sound like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, you've got something wrong. So you're kind of on top of all of the dexterity of both hands and the picking notes individually and all of that, you're actually training your ears to hear the sound of the major scale, which is massively useful as well. When it comes to picking, it's very likely you're going to struggle a bit to pick the right string. You'll probably find, well, I find like 50% of the time it's okay, and then the other half of the time I'm picking wrong strings. You want to try and do it slowly enough that you do get it right more than 50%. So nearly all of the time you should be getting the right string. But even if by the end of your practice for this lesson, you're still getting some picks on the wrong strings, I think that's to be expected. It's going to take probably 6 months or more to be able to get the pick, to accurately pick the right string all the time. There are a couple of things that you might like to try to help. One of them is using an anchor, so using your little finger to actually rest on the fretboard while you pick the notes. Now, I find that a little bit cumbersome for me because my little finger is really short, so it makes lots of tension in my hand. It doesn't feel nice. But there's a lot of fantastic guitar pickers that do rest the little finger on the fretboard. I'm not sure it's the best approach because everyone's different and there are lots of different approaches to picking on the guitar, and it seems like lots of the best players do it slightly differently, so I'm reluctant to say that there is a right way or a wrong way. I used to say that you should definitely anchor, I call it an anchor the little finger there, and it is the way that I learned, that I spent most of my life using an anchor. I'm less certain now. As I get a bit older, I'm seeing more players play different ways, and I'm reluctant to say, yeah, you should definitely do it that way. But definitely give it a try and see if it works for you. When I'm learning left-handed, I'm not doing it. I'm having a go at trying to learn without it. But that's not to say that you should also follow that. I'm just having a go at doing it that way because I learned right-handed using the anchor. So I'm just experimenting. You should give it a go or not. No, not or not. You should definitely give it a go and see if it works for you. And if it does work for you, stick with it. If it helps you pick more accurately, stick with it. If you find it creates tension in your hand and you don't like the idea, then you might want to think about ditching that. If you get comfortable enough with the scale that you find that you can play the notes with a consistent rhythm, then you should definitely explore playing it along with a metronome. Maybe around 60 or 80 beats per minute would be a good starting point, and just making sure that you put your down pick on each click. Really work on playing with the click. Don't rush ahead of it. Don't pull back behind it. Don't anticipate it. Try and get the picking to sit exactly with the metronome if you're going to practice with the metronome. But I wouldn't feel that you have to this lesson. Nitsudge is not doing that. I'm just playing it free. Still battling with the first person situation with Nitsudge, but whatever. He is not doing it. Especially next lesson, we're going to be looking at improvising with it, which is, again, quite a free thing. Playing it with the metronome is a good idea for your technique and developing the synchronization of the hands, but maybe not necessary at this stage. You might want to wait until we're doing alternate picking, so down picks and ups, before working with the metronome. It's a little bit down to you, how you feel about your timing and how you feel about playing the scale, how difficult you find it. So there's a little bit of leeway as to how you're going to approach that one. I really hope you enjoy your scale practice. There are a lot of technical benefits for both your picking, dexterity of the fretting hand, and you're definitely going to enjoy improvising with it in the coming weeks.